everyone, welcome back to my channel and to another balloon video. In this one we're going to be making this awesome balloon stack. We're going to be using several different techniques and we're going to make it all together from scratch. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into the video. Just before we get started with inflation then, let's just go through all of the materials that you're going to need to complete a project similar to this one. So for mine, I am using two foil numbers today. I've got a 1 and a 7. These are unique 34-inch foil balloons, so I'm going to be using both of those. I've also got a 5-inch balloon which is filled with water to use as my weight. If you are using a weight the same as this, it's a good idea to let your customer know that you're using a water weight just in case it does pop. You could use sand-filled weight, or you could use anything else you've got on hand to weigh down your balloons. I've got a selection of 5-inch balloons. So I'm using today Robin's Egg Blue, and I'm also using red as well. So these are 5-inch. And then I've also got the same in the 11-inch. For each layer of balloons, you're going to need 4 balloons. So if you're doing it in the swirl pattern like I am, you're going to need 2 of each colour for each layer that you're doing. And I'm going to be doing 3 layers today. You're also going to need some 260 modelling balloons. I've just got a couple of these here, and then I've got my big bag here as well to hunt through to find some red ones and maybe some more of these blue ones. First thing that I'm going to do then is inflate all my 11-inch to about 10 inches. So I've got a sizer here. This is a 10-inch Qualitex sizer, and it's basically like a piece of corrugated plastic with a hole cut out the middle that is 10 inches. This is about the size of a regular UK dinner plate, so if you haven't got a sizer, you could just cut out round a dinner plate and use that as your sizer. We've also used buckets before now, so if you've got a bucket with a top, you can use that as your sizer. It depends what you've got on hand, but as long as whatever you're using allows you to make your balloons into a full uniform size without any differentiation, then it's fine to use. So I've got an actual sizer, so I'm going to use that today, and I'm going to just crack on with inflating all of these in sets of 2 to 10 inches. So when I say sets of 2, I'm going to do all of my red ones in pairs, and then I'm going to do all of my blue ones in pairs, and I'm going to be tying these into duplets to start with. So that means that these 2 balloons are going to be attached to one another like so, and then we're going to be able to make them into quads. So let's do that, and I'll show you how I do it. If you haven't seen how to make these before, then there is a balloon basics video on this as well, which I will link down below for you, so you can check that one out if you want to. So let's get started with these. So this is my inflator. Just going to pop these on here and get going. Now they're both 10 inches, all I'm going to do is just cross the necks over and then just tie those 2 balloons together. And that is a duplet. So with this design we're doing 3 layers, so this is how many balloons you're going to have. 3 sets of the blue and then 3 sets of the red. Now let's make these into quads and get them all put together. So in order to make your quad, all you're going to do is grab one set of 2 in both of your colours. So I've got a red one and a blue one. I'm going to cross them over at the necks, and then I'm just going to wrap them together until the necks are entwined, and then it's going to look like this, and this is a quad. So I'm going to do that with my other balloons to make 3 layers of balloons. There we go, that's all done. Then what we're going to do is stack them up. Now I've got 3 sets of quads already. What I'm going to do is stack these up. But before I do that, I'm going to need to add my weight in. So if you're using a water weight like this one, all you're going to do is tie it into the bottom of your bottom quad there. If you're using something different, you'll need to fix it in either with a ribbon or with a piece of modelling balloon, just to make sure that it stays where you want it to be. But I'm using this one, so what I'm going to do is just put that neck of the balloon around the bottom of my quad, and I'm just tying a knot underneath there just to make sure that that stays on that balloon. It's a good idea as well, if you are selling these with the water weights on, just make sure that you inform your customer that the display does include a water weight, just in case it pops if they've got kids or a dog or whatever, just to make sure that they don't end up with a mess in their house. So there is my first bottom quad. Here's my next one, and then here is my next one. So you just need to make sure that you've got your swirl how you want it to be, so make sure that all your direction on your balloon is the same. Then what you're going to do is grab some ribbon and just wrap that round to secure everything together. So I'm just using some blue curling ribbon, which I've got here. Let's find the end. I hate finding the end of these because they are such a nightmare. I'm just going to pull the end off, I think. There we go. Okay, so I've got some blue curling ribbon. I'm just going to use this reel to wrap that round. So what I'm going to do is start at the top, and I'm just going to go around each of my sets of balloons in a figure of 8 motion, and then I'm going to come down to the bottom again and round those. And then once I've gone round everything, I'm going to come all the way back up to the top, and I've got 2 pieces now of ribbon here, which I am just going to cut off, and I'm just going to tie those together here at the top of my display. There we go. And once that's done, let's just cut that off as well, and that's nice and neat in there. There's our perfectly sized tower there now, and it's ready to add on all the other bits and pieces that we want to add to our stack. Next, I'm just going to inflate my numbers, so I'm just going to take these out the packaging, and I'm going to use a hand pump. Whoops. And I'm going to use a hand pump on these ones, just because it's a little bit easier than using the electric inflator, because you do sometimes find that if you've been using the electric inflator for some time, like I have doing those latex balloons beforehand, that it does get hot, and then the air that's coming out of it is hot as well. So when you inflate these, you'll think they're full, but they're actually not, because once that air cools down, it does make the balloon look a little bit squishy, and we obviously don't want to do that because we're going to try and put it all together. So let's just move the high float. Just going to find the valve, which is this hole here, and you just want to insert your inflator into there and then just start inflating. Once you've nearly filled the whole balloon, if you just slow down with your inflation, just make sure that your balloon is firm but not overly inflated. And then because these are self-sealing valve, you can just take your inflator out and your balloon isn't going to go down. So that one is all done and ready to go. I'm just going to do this one next. Next then, we need to decide which one of our balloons is going to be attached to the stack as our base balloon, where if you're using just one number, then that's fine, you can just pop one on. But as I'm using 2 in this design, I need to make sure that the one that I'm going to be using as my base is the one that we put this attachment onto. Now for this then, I like to use a 260 balloon. This is just an old one that's actually got a little bit of damage on the end, and all I'm going to do is just tie this onto my balloon like I would if I were doing a foil balloon normally. So I'm just going to roll that into the neck there, and then I'm going to tie that nice and tight, and this is going to give me a stretchy anchor point to attach my number onto my stack of latex balloons. So that is done, and that is what that will look like once you've tied that on there. Now we need to tie this into our stack. So all we're going to do is just grab this 260Q balloon, and we're just going to pull it down into the balloon stack. Pull it down as much as you want to, and then just tie that off in there, so it's a really nice tight contact onto that stack. This can take a little bit of practice because it can be a little bit tricky, but that is held in there now nicely. The next step then in the process is to make some triple balloon clusters like these to put into the stack, just to make it a little bit more pretty. So these are just made out of 5-inch balloons. So I've got some 5-inch in the same two colours that I'm using for my larger ones here. So again, I've got the Robin's Egg Blue and the red here. So what I'm going to do, first of all, is just grab a hand pump. I'm just going to give it 2 pumps like that, and then I'm going to do another one. Now I've got 2 together. It's really important when you're making these as little add-ins for your stacks that you make them nice and round. So all I do is just squeeze them down. You can let a little bit of air out at the same time just to make them round, and then again just tie those into a duplet like that. So now those are attached to one another. You don't have to use the same colour each time. I'm going to, in this instance, just to make it a little bit more uniform. And then all you do, inflate your third one. Just make that roughly the same size again, give it a nice squish, and then just tie that one into that duplet just to make that into a 3 like so. Next I'm going to do a couple of red ones as well. So again, 2 pumps, little squish, tie those together. Just remember, 2 pumps, little squish, tie together, and then you're done. Let's do this last one. I will normally use 2 sets of the different colours on a stack of this size, but it's up to you. If you want to add more or less, it's entirely up to you, you can. That is tied into there now as well. So we've got a nice 3, and these are ready now to have their 260s added onto them. To easily allow us to put this into the design, what we need to do now is use a 260Q. So I've just got these, they're a slightly different colour. It doesn't really matter too much what colour you use for this, because unless you're really looking for it, you're not going to see it. So I'm just going to cut that in half, so it's now 2 sections. Hi loves, I'm just editing this video at the moment. I've just realised that I'm missing a little bit of footage. I'm not quite sure what I've done on the camera, but I've got a feeling that my memory card was full and I didn't realise. So what I am missing is the little piece of footage that tells you how to tie the 260 into the cluster of 3. Now it's super duper simple. All you need to do is get your cluster of 3 and just tie that half length of 260Q into the one side and then tie it into the other one as well. So then you've effectively got one set of balloons here, one set of balloons here, and then you've got the 260 in the middle. I hope that that explains that to you. If you are really confused about this, there is another video which shows you how to do this, which I will link down below. So if you're looking for that particular bit of missing footage, I'll show you in that video with a timestamp so you can find that nice and easily. Back to the video. So what I've done is just tied in those 260s into my triple balloons, and then that just makes them nice and stretchy so we can get a really good stretchy anchor point onto the balloon stack. Now you could use ribbon if you wanted to, but as I said, it's not as easy to put them in if you're using ribbon as it is when you've got the elasticity of the 260 modelling balloon in there. And these are really cheap and easy to use as well. So as you can see, they stretch really far, so it's going to be really easy to do. So let's add these into the stack as the next step. So here's our stretchy triple clusters. All I'm going to do is just get my stack nice and close to me, and I'm just going to pass that down into there. So what I'll do is put a blue one there and a blue one there, and then I've got my red one, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to come, I think, from here at the bottom, and then I want to bring that one underneath this one here, and I'm going to put my red ones just there like that. So they are really nicely fixed into there, and they look absolutely fab to finish off this design. So then this is what our stack looks like at the moment. So we need to add on this number 7 to the top, and I think what I'm going to do is add on a small quad here just to this anchor point that's already on the balloon, and then I'm going to be able to tie in my number 7 to that. It's going to make it a little bit easier to do. So first of all, let's make a quad and pop that onto there. Right, so I've got my small anchor point here, and then I've got a little quad that I've made. This is just 3 pumps on my inflator. So what I'm going to do then is grab the other half of one of the 260Q balloons that I've been using, which is here, and I'm going to really carefully put it onto this. With this, it is a little bit delicate, so you need to be careful that you don't tear it. So what I'm going to do first of all is just tie the 260 into a loop, and that's going to help me to not really have to move this around too much. I just pop it over the top and then I just pull that nice and tight, and I just got to make sure that I don't tear that little piece of foil that's on there. Then once I've got that tied on there nice and securely, I'm just going to grab my little quad and I'm going to pop that again into the top of there and tie that into the design. So that is now attached onto there, like so. So that is now going to create a really good point where I can attach the other number onto there and make sure that it's going to stay on and not come off. So let's grab the number 7 and have a look at what we've got on here to help us with that. So on the bottom of here there isn't a piece that we can attach to, but what we want to do is get that to sit in there like that. So what I'm going to do is make myself a tab on here, and I'm just going to use some tape to do that. It's nothing fancy, so I'm just going to grab some sellotape and we'll make a nice little tab to go on there to attach that onto the balloons. So just made a small tab on here using some sellotape. It's nothing very pretty, but you won't see it when it is on the display. So all I'm going to do is attach a 260Q to it again, and then that'll allow me to tie that into my stack to complete the look. Here's the 260Q then, and that is attached onto there. All I'm going to do now again then is just tie that into this quad here. There we go, that is in there like that nicely. Then all I need to do is sort out my 7 so that it sits nicely. As you can see, it's a bit floaty at the moment. Now that that's attached onto there, you can see that the number 7 is sticking up in the air and sort of floating around. So what we need to do is anchor that bottom down into the stack. So what I'm going to do again is use another bit of 260Q, and I'm just going to stretch that into the stack. But what I'm going to do then is cover that up so that you're not going to be able to see it with some pearls made from another 260Q. So I'll show you how to do that now. Okay, so I've attached that 260 onto there now, so that we could either just pull it down so that it holds it like that there, which I think will actually work quite well, and then we're going to cover it up with some beads, or we could make the beads straight away to go on it. So what I'm going to do, I think, is make those beads where I am. So I'm just inflating this 260Q that's attached onto there, and I'm going to let about that much of the air out, so probably about 6 inches worth, and then I'm just going to tie the bottom of that 260Q. Once we've got that 260Q inflated and attached onto there, all I'm going to do is start twisting some little bubbles, and these are the pearls that are going to hold that number 7 down. Obviously it's functional because it is holding that balloon in place, but it's also really interesting to the eye as well, because it's something that's a different technique that people may not have seen before, and it just adds extra interest to the design. So I'm working out roughly as I go how many I'm going to need, but I think probably 4 or 5 will be plenty. I've just added a few extra ones in on the end, and the next step really is just to cut the end off, let the additional air out whilst holding it, and tie off the 260. Once that's done, we can just pull it down into the design, into the stack at the bottom, and again either tie it round or just wrap it into the design. Because again we're using a 260, it does make it really flexible and stretchy, so it's much easier to work with than if you were using a ribbon. Got that on there now, but as you can see the mechanics of it looks a little bit unsightly, so just made another small quad, and I'm just going to pop that around the top of there just to hide all those bits and pieces, and it just finishes that off nicely. So that is all ready to go, I think. Let's have a quick look at the full design standing up. There we go, then that's what it looks like finished, and we've used such a lot of different techniques in this particular design that it just looks fab. So we've got the quads up here, and these are actually functional. They're hiding bits that we don't want you to see. You've got the triple clusters at the bottom here, which just make it look really pretty and just finish off the design lovely. And then of course the big showstopper is the 17 itself. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video and that you found it to be useful, and I hope that this has inspired you to try a design like this of your own. Don't forget, you can add on as much or as little as you like. This is just the way that I do it, and I hope to see you soon for another video. Take care of yourselves. Bye.